Zam Wesell was born on Zolan, a mid-rim planet that was unremarkable for much of its history. An abnormal spike in solar activity eventually bathes the entire planet in radiation. Many species are wiped out, but the native Clawdites evolve with this new level of radiation and in time become shapeshifters, or changelings. Legends has things happening quite a bit different for the planet before we even get to Zam. It's important to cover as her history is much more clearly defined in these sources. There are also very few canon contradictions to her early days, so in my mind, this is her true story until something else comes along to replace it. Her species was the subject of genetic engineering, hundreds of years before her birth. A subspecies was born from these experiments, shapeshifters. This new species was banished to live in ghettos and became second-class citizens. Tensions rise and the planet is always on the brink of civil war. This is the environment that a young Zam would be born into and that would push her into a life of bounty hunting in the galaxy's underworld. In canon, Zam is raised in a strict warrior tradition known as the Mabari Order. She would eventually leave, seeking her own path and wealth. She becomes known to the wider galaxy as a formidable fighter, made all the more dangerous by her changeling abilities. Legends agrees with most of these details, but expands upon them. Being raised a Mabari is established here and designated as a religious order. Adding more weight to it, the Mabari are warrior knights with their own unique martial art developed and honed over generations. Her early days also shine some light on the prejudice her subspecies falls victim to. The primary inhabitants of the planet, the Zolanders, believed changelings' ability to hide their true appearance made them all deceivers and sinners. Zam does hide her true form for years as she trains. When her Clawdite nature is revealed, she is labeled a heretic and forced from the only home she ever knew. With legends and canon being pretty close to agreement, her story moves on, in canon, clearly. She finds transport to Denon, an inner rim planet that's in Ecumenopolis. That is, a planet whose entire surface is a single city, just like Coruscant. Imperial General Maximilian Veers and rebel hero Pedron Gall both hail from this planet. Zam takes the form of a young human woman and finds legitimate employment as a corporate security officer. With her lifetime of training, she quickly rises in the ranks and receives many promotions, all the while hiding her true species. A simple life working a legal job and honing her skills could have sufficed, but the wider galaxy, adventure, and real profits called to her. I have to imagine her constantly having to hide who she really is was also eating away at her and influenced her future decision. Once again, Legends lines up pretty well with canon, with one big added difference. During her time on Denon, Zam meets another Clawdite in hiding. The two fall in love and have a daughter called Sohn. Over time, Zam would feel trapped by the traditional family that she created and would leave them behind to pursue her life as a bounty hunter. In a strange move, it is made clear in Legends that Zam would send portions of her paychecks back to Zolan to support Clawdite freedom movements, but apparently didn't bother sending any money home to Denon for her own child. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. Either story establishes Zam as capable but selfish, determined for profits above all else. As the Clone Wars approaches, Zam is known throughout the shadier parts of the galaxy as an effective assassin for hire. The human form she's displaying when we meet her in Attack of the Clones is the form that she walks around in her day-to-day life. This helps her blend into most planets. On missions, Zam would use her changeling ability to blend in and infiltrate. She mastered stealth in plain sight. This, coupled with her self-discipline and the fact that she isn't afraid to walk into the proverbial lion's den, makes her a very dangerous and profitable hunter. Throughout her career, she would cross paths with other hired guns and bounty hunters. Sometimes it was just appear in passing, and other times it would be a team-up. One common collaborator who Zam would work with quite a bit is none other than the Mandalorian Jango Fett. The two take on increasingly dangerous jobs, which brings them closer as partners and a lot of credits. They learn to trust each other, and they have a working shorthand that makes even complicated missions easier to do together. While their working relationship exists in canon, the genesis of it isn't clear. That's made more clear in Legends. In BBY 32, Zam and Jango were independently hunting a convict, Bendix Fust. Fust was being held in a high-security prison on an asteroid designated UVO 4. Once inside the prison, Zam has an easier time blending in than the silver-armored Mandalorian, and she reaches the target first. Jango catches up to her, not long after, he's a very skilled hunter, and is not about to let the bounty get away so easily. Zam triggers a full-on prison riot intended to cover her escape. This plan goes off the rails quickly. Things are too chaotic for her to simply shapeshift and slip away with the bounty. Fett's ship, the Jaster Legacy, named for Jaster Muriel, is destroyed as a result of the riot, leaving him stranded as well. The two agree to a temporary alliance to get out of this increasingly volatile situation. Part of this agreement is in splitting the money from Fust's bounty. After fighting their way out of the prison itself, the two are set on by a Fire Spray-class starship that Jango would eventually commandeer and keep as a replacement for the ship that he just lost. He would rename this Slave One. Unlike most bounty hunter team-ups, both stayed true to their agreement and split the bounty. This may have been the why their relationship worked from the start. From then on, they trusted each other and worked together to both become rich. They didn't hunt exclusively as a duo, but each became the other's most common ally. When the two deliver Fust to a Dug crime lord called Sibolto on Malastare, the Dug's home planet, Jango starts pursuing a larger mission. Despite working together, he was keeping Zam in the dark on this. It was a pre-existing thing from before he met her. She helps him and learns what she can. Fett is after a much bigger target than Fust. He is hunting an ex-Jedi named Kamari Vosa, who became the leader of the Bando Gora cult. Zam doesn't get to see that part of the hunt through, but it's worth the diversion to say that Legends has this successful hunt of the former Jedi is one of the main reasons why Jango is picked as the template for the clone army. Legends talks about more stories with Jango and Zam as a team. The stories are exciting, but they don't give us a ton of new insights into Zam's character, except that in all of their time together, Zam gets close to Jango's clone son Boba. The two become so close that Boba calls her Auntie Zam and thinks of her as a maternal figure. 10 years of successful missions, wealth building, and frequent team-ups with Jango leads to Zam being hired to take on a massive bounty, the assassination of a Naboo senator, Padmé Amidala. Count Dooku, a former Jedi who is now leading the Separatists during the Clone Wars, uses his secret Sith identity of Darth Tyrannus to hire Jango Fett to kill Amidala. Fett hires the work out to Zam, as she is a skilled assassin whose changing abilities would help her blend in on Coruscant. Zam would make 2 attempts on Padmé's life. The first is in planting bombs to kill the senator as she disembarks her ships on a landing pad found on Coruscant. In this instance, Padmé is using a body double, which is a common tactic for Naboo royalty carried over from Padmé's time as queen. Padmé survives because she is not in the primary ship. Legends once again agrees with this, but provides extra content. Disguising herself as a member of the press on Coruscant, Zam tricks a young security officer named Donley to not only give her the exact time and location of Padmé's shuttle arrival, but has him be the one to actually plant the bomb. Of course, he has no idea that he's planting a bomb. He thinks that he's installing surveillance equipment that is going to expose corruption in the Senate, not kill anyone. The bombing put those around Padmé on high alert. Her security detail, along with 2 Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi and his Padawan learner, Anakin Skywalker, protect Padmé in her quarters. A frontal assault would not work, so Jango supplies Zam with 2 Kohan assassin centipedes, which are massive venomous bugs. Zam uses an ASN-121 assassin droid to deliver the payload, and this plot actually would have succeeded if the Jedi had not been in the next room. Skywalker expertly kills the bugs with his lightsaber moments before they would have bitten and killed Padmé. Kenobi jumps out of the window, hundreds of stories above the planet's surface, and grabs the assassin droid in hopes that it would fly him to the assassin behind it. Zam thinks fast and uses a sniper rifle to shoot the droid, hoping that the Jedi would then plummet to his death. She opts not to shoot Kenobi directly because it would make the death seem more accidental if he just fell. Shooting a Jedi Knight would be obvious and add to the heat already surrounding her. Skywalker catches his falling master in an open cockpit airspeeder as they continue their chase through Coruscant's congested skyways. Zam employs every trick she can think of to try and shake the pursuing Jedi, but Skywalker is strongly attuned to the Force and an incredible pilot. He changes the rules of the chase when he jumps out of his own speeder, landing on Zam. He manages to open a hole in her cockpit and compromise her Coro 2 speeder's controls. Her panic has her assumed form falter for a second, letting Skywalker know that she's actually a changeling. Zam crash lands in the Uskro Entertainment District. She goes back into an old trick, hiding in plain sight. When she enters the Outlander Club, Kenobi and Skywalker follow her inside, calming their minds to try to sense her rather than see her, given that she could look like anybody. Had Zam just taken the loss, she may have escaped the Jedi entirely. She could not resist trying to eliminate at least one of her pursuers and sticks a gun in Kenobi's back as he casually sits at the club's bar. Kenobi shows Zam just what Jedi intuition and reflexes look like when he spins, ignites his lightsaber, severs her arm, and stows the weapon back in the blink of an eye. They drag the wounded bounty hunter out of the club to interrogate her, where things are relatively private. At first, she resists, but she's in a bad way. She almost gives up the name of her employer, regular ally, and I'd even go as far to say friend, Jango Fett. But Fett, from a distance, silences her for good with a poisonous saber dart before flying off. I'm sure the irony is not lost on any of us that the very method Jango tries to use to silence her is what actually leads the Jedi to who he is and to Kamino. Zam's role in galactic events doesn't seem to be massive on the surface. Both of her attempts on Padmé's life, a death that would have changed things for the Republic, failed, but the details ripple out to almost everything that follows. The dart leads Kenobi to Kamino, where he first learns of the clone army. He learns of Jango Fett, and the war the galaxy was trying to avoid is already inevitable. Staying more focused on Zam, local authorities recover her assassin droid and tap into whatever parts of its memory banks survived the shooting and the crash. They find data that ties Zam to multiple unsolved crimes, including other political assassinations against Senator Jubin and Baron Wazato. This has the senatorial security forces tighten things up. In another interesting twist of fate, the heightened security that put senatorial security forces in direct contact with Palpatine would eventually become the distinct Emperor's Royal Guard when he seizes control of the galaxy. Legends follows up on some of the aftermath of Zam's death as well. Her daughter, Sohn, is reported missing shortly after her mother's death. Jango Fett, the most dangerous bounty hunter up to this point, feels regret for what he did to his old friend, a rare emotion for him. Young Boba mourns her loss as he would an actual blood family member. While much of Zam's story involves her selfish nature, having the Fetts mourn her humanizes her in at least a small way. It's not too often canon legends blend together so smoothly. Zam's story is consistent in both versions, which gives us a rich narrative to follow. Check out this transmission next for more Star Wars lore.